I keep thinking, I can't believe I'm here again. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Tamara. Hey! Today we are finally sitting down to talk about my wellness journey. This has been a long time coming, and if you remember, like quite a few months ago when I released the introduction video to Wellness Wednesdays, and I said that I was going to start creating more fitness content again and sharing my workouts and recipes and all of that. So this series will focus on fitness, wellness, recipes, motivation, mindset shifts, and of course, everything related to having a healthy mind, body, and spirit. Yeah, that never happened. So what did happen? Well, a lot. As we all know, these past 2 years have been heavy, for all of us. And long story short, I found out I was pregnant June 2019. And while I was happy, I was also trying to prevent myself from being happy because it was not planned. Although I had baby fever for years and my husband and I were really wanting, to start our family, we were waiting, basically for our careers. That's what it boils down to. So, it was a surprise. And I kind of felt like, man, this is like not the perfect time at all because, if you don't know, I'm an actress, but I was also working as a fitness instructor in New York. And I had this other part-time job working as a theater and dance specialist for an after-school program. And I had grew to like hate that job. It weighed on me so much. It took up, even though I only worked there like after school hours, it just like consumed me mentally, emotionally, physically. And there were so many times where I was at an audition and I'm like, man, I got like an hour to get to work. Should I stay and hopefully I can like get into this audition, or should I go to work, or should I call off work today and go to this audition? Because I have student loans and like that's something that I was always battling with, besides the drama that was happening at the school. That's a whole nother story, okay? So I had the opportunity to get certified as a Pilates instructor at my studio where I was already teaching group fitness. And this was such an amazing opportunity because I was going to finally be able to leave the after school job, work less hours, but make more money. It was really going to open up my schedule for auditioning and just working on different projects. So I was really excited about that. The week I started my Pilates certification, I found out I was pregnant. I was like, what? What is happening? So I had so many conflicting emotions, and it was a great time, but it was also a hard time for a lot of different reasons. And then when I finally got comfortable with the idea, because I was like, she coming. I finally got comfortable with the idea. I went through, my pregnancy. I worked my entire pregnancy. And then, the kicker was, I was like, okay, well, let me stay at the after school job for like another quarter, just to like save up some more money. And then by January, I won't go back. So I worked my entire pregnancy up to 38 weeks. I think my last day was like, I was 37 weeks and like, I don't know, maybe 37 weeks and 5 days or something like that. I don't know. And we commuted. So we lived in Jersey and we commuted back and forth to New York for work. So most of the time my days started, I would have to leave the house at like 5 a.m. I really wouldn't get home till 8 p.m. And I was already doing this before pregnancy, but you know, then I did it all the way through pregnancy. And you know, I was commuting from Jersey to Manhattan, then the middle of the day, Manhattan to Brooklyn. Sometimes I would have to go back to the studio in the evening. So Brooklyn to Manhattan, and then Manhattan back to Jersey. Oh my gosh. It was a lot. Okay. So when January came, I worked all the way through January. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start my maternity leave. I'll have 4 weeks off. I really only had 2 weeks off because baby girl came 2 weeks earlier. But, you know, looking back now, I was like, it was probably a blessing. So I gave birth in February, and then maybe 2.5 weeks later, New York went into shutdown because the world changed. Okay. So immediately I think I went into like survival mode, and I didn't even have the opportunity to really process labor and delivery because that was a whole nother thing. And then fast forward to, I want to say May, I made the decision to leave Jersey. You know, both of us were out of work. My husband's also in entertainment. He's a sound guy for film and television. And entertainment and fitness were really like the last two industries to really come back full force. So we were like, okay, things are running low. Maybe we should just go home, my home of Buffalo, New York. And then crazy thing, like our rent had went up at the very beginning of the pandemic. There was no rent relief for us or nothing. I was like, y'all really gonna raise this rent right now? Like, really? It was craziness. And even with like all of the, you know, pause on evictions and stuff like that, it's like, okay, once this is, you know, we still gonna have to like pay all of this rent back. So let's just leave. We have a newborn. It's fine. We'll go home, ride this out. We said that we were going to be here for like a year. It's been 2 years. When 2021 came, we were still pretty much in the thick of it. So, you know, that was fine. But now here we are in 2022, and we're kind of like, man, we don't know if we're going to be able to leave by the end of this year. Probably be pushed back to 2023. So that has been like another thing that has been weighing heavily on me. So just a lot of change in the past 2 years. When we first moved home, you know, we moved in with my dad. It was fine. I had a lot of peace about it. A lot of people did this, especially artists. A lot of people left New York. But by that like 6th month mark, that lying negative voice in my head just started to talk to me, saying things like, oh, you're a failure. You had to come back home. What are you doing with your life? Just, you know, all of these negative thoughts were just flooding my mind. And then it was really hard too, because I had it in my mind that I was going to go back to the studio, maybe the end of the summer, maybe the fall, and definitely start auditioning again. And I wasn't. I accidentally became a stay-at-home mom, you know. So I was like here in the house, you know, taking care of Selah. I did a few things. We actually did go back to New York together to like work on a short film. And then Eddie eventually, he started like working when everything started to open back up. But for me, I just felt like so many things had just been taken away. And on the flip side, I was also getting upset with myself for even feeling that way, because I felt like I was protected. My family was protected. Everybody was safe. Like nobody was sick. I didn't lose anybody like directly close to me. So I just had all of these conflicting emotions, you know, trying to be grateful during, you know, that time, but also feeling like, man, I feel like we're starting over, literally from square one. So that weighed heavily on me. And then as time went on, I really went in and out of depression. I think I've really struggled with depression since I was a child, But then anxiety over these past few years has really started to attack me. So I was dealing with that. And then the end of 2021, I lost a really dear friend of mine who's also Selah's godmother. If you watched the HerJourney2Self podcast, you know that I dedicated season 3 to her, and I mentioned it there. And the end of 2021, I basically just threw myself into work because I had just started filming season 3 of the podcast, and then she passed. So I was just like laser focused on that. And then 2022 came, and I think I really just started to feel the weight of everything that happened in 2021. And also, I was just anticipating greatness for 2022. I was like, oh, 22 is my number because my birthday is March 22nd. And just like 2020, where I had high expectations, I was like, okay, Selah's coming, but it's going to be great. This is going to be our year, so many opportunities and expansion and blah, blah, blah. This is going to be the year of perfect vision. I was like, everybody's going to start saying that, and everybody definitely did. And then 2020 came, and it was nothing like we all thought, okay? And I feel like that's exactly what happened with 2022. All of these high expectations, and it did not start off great at all for me. So I think I really fell into like a deep depression and just not wanting to do anything, not motivated, wasn't really recording a lot of content, haven't really released a motivational minute in quite some time because I was not feeling very motivational. Man, just there were days where I was just like, man, I just want to stay in this bed all day. And that's when I know I'm not in a great place. But at the same time, now that I'm a mom, now that I have a toddler, I can't just like, oh, I'm just going to sulk here because I have to take care of her. So it's been a lot over these past 2 years, especially like this last year, I want to say, and a lot has just been weighing heavy on me. So what does this all have to do with my wellness journey? Everything. I always say that for me, wellness is about the mind, the body, and the spirit. It's all connected. So if we go back and really talk about my history with wellness, I've always struggled with body image and having just different insecurities from the time that I was a very young child, which is very unfortunate, but this is my story. I always felt like I was like the chubby one, like in my family or in my friend group. And I was always so frustrated and angry at my body because it's like, oh, I'm so active. I was always, playing outside, when kids really went outside and played, playing kickball and basketball and football and jump rope and just all of the things. I was also in and out of dance my entire life. But yeah, I just felt like there was something wrong with my body. That's how I felt essentially. So I developed a lot of insecurities. I know a lot of the insecurities came from other people like pointing things out, which I think that's what happens when you're a child. You don't think that there's anything wrong with you until somebody like makes a comment about something. Sometimes they don't even think that they're saying something that could impact you in such a negative way, but it does. And there are so many things that, like relatives have said, like jokingly, that still, that planted a seed for insecurity that I still have to like work at uprooting to this day. I also think that it was childhood where I really developed this sense of perfectionism. I think it really has a lot to do with being thought of as a goody two shoes, which I do not recommend saying this ever to any child. Whenever I hear somebody refer to a child as being a goody two shoes, I'm like, no, do not put that label on them, because I think in a weird way I equated that to perfectionism. So I felt like I couldn't really do anything wrong. If I did do something wrong, I was harder on myself than somebody else was. And I also developed this habit, this thought process of not being able to be vulnerable, to be open and honest with my struggles, because if I was, then that was me admitting that there was something wrong with me, because I thought if I had a struggle, then there's something wrong with me. So I have suffered in silence with depression for years. I've suffered in silence with having body image insecurities for years. I remember in high school, I would do, I think, like 100 crunches every morning before I went to school. That was like all the fitness I really knew of, it was just like, oh, do some crunches, I would do that every morning. Of course, nobody knew that. I would never tell anybody that. And I would never admit that, I feel insecure about my body and about my weight, because again, perfectionism. I didn't know it was perfectionism then, but I definitely have that awareness now. So fast forward to college. This is where I really fell in love with wellness, with health overall. And I don't even know how I really got into it. I think I always kind of had like a foundation of health and wellness, because my father, my grandmother are very health conscious. But somehow I just like got into it in college. It started off with like fitness and, me wanting to lose weight. And I would do the Taebo workouts. I would just look them up on YouTube. Sometimes they wouldn't even have like the full workout, but if it was 20 minutes of a 40-minute class and that's what was available, I would like play that on the computer and I would do that workout. That's so funny. Eventually I graduated to Turbo Fire with Chalene Johnson, and that was really fun. So yeah, I did that throughout undergrad. I started like running around the track because my dorm was directly across from the football field. So I would run around the track, and like that first semester of freshman year, I did not gain the freshman 15. I think I probably lost about 15 pounds when I came home. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And even that was so uncomfortable. I remember at that time, posting like a picture on Facebook, and one of my classmates from high school was like, oh my gosh, Tamara, you look so great. I mean, you were never big, but you just look so great. And I just like, my skin was crawling. Like I didn't want anybody to like comment about my body. I didn't even really want to like talk about weight loss, because again, if I did, then that would be me admitting that there was something wrong with me. And now I'm working on this thing that's wrong with me. You see that mindset that I was in, just a very negative mindset. So even though I was really falling in love with health and wellness, I still yo-yoed because of stress, because of life. I definitely know that I am an emotional eater. I think we all are in some aspect, because food is such a huge part of our lives, but for a lot of us, it can really impact us in a negative way when we don't have a healthy relationship with food. So I did struggle, but one of the key things that really helped me, during this time was just my understanding of nutrition and really learning about what nutrition is, because there were a lot of things I just like stopped eating, not necessarily because it's like, oh, I want to lose weight and then maybe I'll have like a cheat meal or something like that. But no, to this day, there are things I just don't eat, because essentially a lot of the things that we do eat, especially in America, it's poison. And that is not an exaggeration, like literally. But I'm not perfect. There are still things I'm like, I should not be eating this, like Twizzlers. That is like Twizzlers are my jam. And I'm like, Tamara, you do not need to eat this. This is not even real food. But sometimes you're just like, oh, I want to eat that. So we're still working on the Twizzlers. So we move on to grad school, and I'm still, into fitness, into wellness, really learning more. Then I discovered Shaun T and Insanity. And I think that really transformed my body. I loved doing the Insanity workouts. Oh my goodness, that was such a great time in my life. Even these past 2 years, I kept trying to go back to Insanity when I was struggling. But I don't know, for some reason I just couldn't really get into it like I was before. But at that time, I absolutely loved Insanity. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So I also met my husband while I was at grad school. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for grad school. I went to Clark Atlanta University for undergrad. So I stayed in Savannah, I think maybe a year. I think it was either a year or 2 years after I graduated. Maybe a year and a half, because my husband graduated a year after me, and then we got married a few months, I think, after he graduated. And then we moved to New York. So this is where I really started to blossom. I was really learning so much more about fitness, so much so that I was eager to do a bodybuilding competition. I never ended up doing it for a lot of different reasons. But then I became a fitness instructor. I worked at a boutique fitness studio called Shay's Fitness in New York. I was there for, I want to say, I think 2020. I was coming up on my 6th year, I believe. And it was such a huge accomplishment. But first of all, I have to thank my husband for even encouraging me to go to the audition, because again, although, I would lose weight and I was in shape, I still had so many body insecurities, and I probably developed some type of body dysmorphia, some time ago, because I could never see what everybody else would see. My husband would compliment me on the way that I was looking, and I'm just like, oh no, I need to lose more weight, and I need to tighten up here, and just picking apart my body in such a negative way. It was never good enough. So when I saw the posting for the audition, because it was an audition, that's it's so funny, because I was on a audition, a casting website, and a lot of the times you will see auditions for fitness instructors at boutique studios, because actually a lot of artists in the city got into fitness and would go and work at a fitness studio. So they would have these auditions, because a lot of the group fitness aspect is performative, So anyway, I saw it, and I was telling Eddie about it. He was like, yeah, you should do it. And I was just like, oh, I don't think so. I don't think I'm fit enough yet. And he was like, what are you talking about? So I was like, okay. So I was so insecure to go. But I went. I got hired. And I even remember telling my supervisor, I was like, I almost didn't come to the audition. I was still very insecure about my body. I didn't think I looked fit enough. And even my coworkers who got hired with me, they're all like, what are you talking about? But it's just, having such a distorted view of myself overall, but specifically my body. So even though I became a fitness instructor, I still struggled. And I remember posting something a few years ago on Instagram about how I had it in my mind that once I became a fitness instructor, that I was no longer going to struggle with all of these different insecurities. I was, never going to struggle with my body weight again. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There was a time where I had a conversation with my boss at the studio, and she was just telling me, a lot of people in this industry go through the same things and we have the same insecurities. And I think it's also this misconception, like when you see somebody who's fit and really into health and wellness, you just think that they've always been that way. And for a lot of us, it has been a journey, and we've been on the other side. And it's a continuous journey. And for some reason, I just thought that, once I have like this title of, oh, now I'm a fitness instructor, I'm not going to struggle anymore. But the journey continues. So I continue to struggle, and I didn't even really expect some of the struggles that I had. So in the middle of me teaching this class, I was get a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and that lying negative voice again is, telling me like, oh, you're a fraud, you don't belong here. And then I'm starting to think, oh, the clients are probably looking at me weird, like, oh, she's a fitness instructor, like, what is she doing here? Oh, they probably hate your class. They're just coming to you to be nice, which is such a lie, because one of the studios was on the Upper East Side, and those women that came to the studio, listen, if they did not like your class, they were not coming back to your class. They would sometimes tell the front desk, like, I didn't enjoy that class. Like, I don't like that instructor, So, and I had quite a few favorites that would come to my class on a weekly basis. But in my mind, I was just thinking like, oh, they're just lying to me. Like, what? But something else that I struggled with was being a Black girl in this industry and having a lot of insecurities around that. Especially when I worked at the Upper East Side studio, because most of the clientele were white women. Most of them were white women, like very slim. And I just had this another type of insecurity, like just like being a Black girl, like working here, but also like kind of being shaped differently, even though I've always not really felt connected to the typical like Black girl's shape, but still just being a bit more, muscular. And I struggled with that. So I just had all of these thoughts going through my head while I'm teaching these classes. And this lasted the entire time I was at the studio. Like for these 5-6 years that I taught, I struggled a lot. And back then, I didn't really have this knowledge and this awareness about mindset and really changing your mindset and getting to the root of things, which is why I'm so passionate about speaking about that now. But back then, it was just, I was so stuck in my head. And I know it affected the way that I taught the class. So even though I think because I'm a performer, I was able, to kind of put on a face, put on a mask and perform. But I just know that, man, if my mindset was better, my classes would probably be 20 times better. So even though they were great, I just felt like, man, they could have been extraordinary, And it even affected me as a performer, especially being on camera. It's like, oh, just having these thoughts of insecurity, like, oh, how do I look right now? Again, giving this amazing performance, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, do I have a back roll right now? Just all of these different things that go through your head because you're so stuck on the insecurity that has grew up with you, essentially. So when 2019 came and I found out I was pregnant, which even when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh man, because like I said before, I was really wanting to do a bodybuilding competition, but like life always got in the way, and I was like, okay, I'll have to push it off to, the next year. Okay, I have to push it off to the next year. So I was like, okay, I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to start prep again. I'm going to start prep like next week. I started my Pilates certification. I was like, I'm leaving the after school job. I'm just working, through the summer. Then I'm leaving. Found out I was pregnant. But I was also kind of in this weird spot with my body. I wasn't as lean as I had been, but I was still very fit. Back then, though, I just thought I looked enormous. Again, mindset, body dysmorphia. And I was like, oh man, when I found out I was pregnant, like, oh no, I need to like lose some weight before I need to lose some weight in like this first trimester. Like, this is where my head was, like literally. Oh my goodness. But looking back at, the pictures from pre-pregnancy, or even like my first trimester, I was so small. Like, what the heck? And then I carried pretty small for most of my pregnancy too. I was able to conceal my pregnancy for a very long time as well. I really didn't. But yeah, my bump was pretty small, and I loved being pregnant. I always knew that I was going to, but I loved being pregnant. Like I said, I worked the entire time, but I still went to the gym. I wasn't like as hardcore as I thought I was going to be for the entire time, because I was teaching like multiple fitness classes throughout the day. So I was like, okay, Tamara, you don't have to like, go hardcore in the gym. But yeah, I was active my entire pregnancy. And then, I was like, oh, I remember telling my friend, I was like, you know what? After I have a baby in 2020, I'm going to get me a membership at Orange Theory, because I like desperately wanted to try out Orange Theory. And then, I got pregnant. I was like, okay, I'm not going to like sign up for Orange Theory now. I was like, but you know what? After I have the baby, I'm going to sign up for Orange Theory, blah, 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 blah. And you know how 2020 went. So we get, to 2020, it's craziness. We come home, well, even before we come home, like labor delivery, that was the story. But even my recovery, like I had like a minor complication. So it took me a long time to heal. It was just a lot. But we get to Buffalo, and I'm working out more. I did actually lose the baby weight, but again, I fluctuated these past 2 years because of stress, because of anxiety, because of depression, just because of life. So, where am I now? I keep thinking, I can't believe I'm in the same place again. There has been a lot of shame that I have been working on unpacking. Definitely a lot of mindset shifts. Something that I carry with me that I'm always thinking about, something that my therapist that I was working with last year said to me is, Tamara, live in reality. We had a session. She was like, you're not living in reality. You're not living in reality. And I was like, what do you mean? But I have a strong tendency to get so worked up over things that could possibly happen, things about the future and the uncertainty. And she's like, Tamara, live in reality. Like, come back to the moment. You don't know if that terrible thing is going to happen in the future. So why are you living there? Why are you letting it consume you? And that's what I try to tell myself over and over and over again, Tamara. Come back to reality. Yes, acknowledge your feelings, your pain, your emotions, but don't stay there. Don't sit there. Something I have learned is to stop finding comfort in pain. Stop finding comfort in pain. A lot of us do this because it's comfortable, because we know what the outcome is. Nothing, no change, just sit here and binge Netflix. Just bake a batch of cookies and eat all of them. Numb yourself. That's what it is. Versus journaling or reaching out to a loved one or a friend or booking an additional therapy session or going outside to go for a walk or, just anything that can help us. I think when we experience so much rejection and disappointment, we don't want to do any of those things that are healthy and helpful because we have developed this negative mindset of nothing is going to work. And the mindset that I have lived with my entire life basically is life is against you. So anytime something goes wrong, that lying negative voice again, oh, life is against you. Oh, you want to try again? Okay, go ahead. Something falls through. It doesn't work out the way that you anticipate. Here comes that negative voice. Oh, I told you, life is against you. So we find comfort in the pain. We just numb ourselves because what is the point of trying again? Which is why I am so vocal about working on your mind, your body, and your spirit. Like I said before, it is all connected. There could be something going on in my personal life that is going to, in some way or another, affect me physically. If, I'm struggling, with my body at the moment, it is going to, in some way or another, affect me spiritually, and it's just like this ripple effect that happens. So right now I am being intentional about my wellness, about my overall health. So some of my goals are to continue to improve my mindset and uproot these negative thought patterns and limiting beliefs, these scarcity beliefs. Also remind myself of what my relationship with food should be. Because like I said before, when I really started to learn about nutrition and health overall, it wasn't about like this physical aspect. Like it came with it, but it was really about how am I nurturing my body? How am I feeding my body? And that is so important to me. Strengthening my relationship with God, really focusing on my prayer life and my devotional time, being intentional. When I first sat down to record this video after a long time of procrastinating, I was extremely nervous about it. I think I'm still probably going to be like, oh, I want to hide under the covers once I upload this because it is vulnerable and it can be scary to really put yourself out there. But I always tell myself, especially when I have some type of fear around something, I remind myself of my why. Why did I get into wellness in the first place? Why did I become a fitness and Pilates instructor? Why did I initially, start this YouTube channel, which was, at first a fitness channel? What is my why? And that is to empower, to motivate, to inspire, to encourage others to live a healthy life, for others to find well-being, to share my story. As an artist, I definitely believe in the power of our stories. And the insecure part of me is like, oh, just wait until you, have like this amazing transformation and then share. But I always say there's so much wisdom to be gained in the valley. And I am currently in the valley. So I'm going to take you along this journey with me. Now, I have already started on this, renewed journey. I actually just finished my first phase, my first 4 weeks. Okay, so initially, I was going to record this video before I even started, but I think I was just putting too much pressure on myself because I was just like, I was just like, you know what, Tamara, you just need to focus on yourself, get back into this routine because you've been struggling with your routine. So I gave myself grace, and then I was like, okay, after the first week, I will record it after the first week. But then life kind of got in the way, just like different things happening. So then I recorded it like during, I think, the fourth week or towards the end of the third week. Like I said, like, it did not come out right. I hated it. That's why I'm re-recording it. And now we are on the first week of phase 2. But you know what? It's all right. We are here. So here we are on my renewed wellness journey of me being fit on purpose again. That is a phrase that came to me some years ago when I really started to get into fitness, and it was all about intentionality. And of course, I believe having a fit mind, a fit body, and a fit spirit. So that's where fit on purpose comes from. That is my Instagram handle for my fitness page that I have not posted on since 2020. So I don't know, maybe I'll revamp that page sometime in the future. I don't know, but yes, this is my fit on purpose again journey, but this time heavily focused on my overall well-being. A lot of it has to do with mindset, you know, really getting into journaling again. It has been a struggle for me still, even though in June I launched Affirm Flow, which, if you don't know, that's my wellness company that's all about empowering yourself on your healing journey through journaling. I will leave a link to the Affirm Daily Method video where I explain everything. I also just self-published my book, Daily Affirmations for the Soul, so I'll definitely link that for you as well. But even though, you know, I launched my company, it's still a struggle. And I remember hearing somebody say that your pain is usually tied to your purpose. And that rings so true for me as a performer, but also as a wellness professional. And like I said before, when you get to a point where you just want to numb yourself and you kind of resist a lot of the things that are a positive outlet for you, because you're just like, what's the point in trying? Like fitness, that's one of the main reasons I struggled with my fitness for these past 2 years. I built up a lot of resistance to it, but even journaling, and I've always written since I was a very little girl. I've always had a diary or some type of journal. So I really developed the Affirm Daily Method as a way for me to get back into journaling in a healthy and productive way. And although I've launched the business officially, it's still a struggle that I have to be very intentional about. So I'm sharing all of this with you guys so you can come on this journey with me. I'm nervous, but I'm excited at the same time. Whew, that was a lot. I feel like I didn't even really scratch the surface, but yeah, it's like impossible to basically share your life story in a YouTube video. But I'm very excited for this series. Please come along this journey with me. If you have made it to the end of this video, comment below how you are going to start living fit on purpose. So make sure you like this video, share it out with your friends and your loved ones, whoever else that you want to bring on this journey with us. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you never miss an upload, and I will see you in the next one. So remember to live fit on purpose.